G'day everyone, it's Duckville here, bringing you some Heart of the Swarm action. We've got a PvT coming your way today. I actually found some of these replays over on one of the replay websites. It's a bunch of replays from our Terran player. Actually, we'll start with him down in the bottom left-hand side. Terran player going by the name of iLoveMKP. Not sure if this is like a full Smurf account of someone, but I couldn't really find too much information. This is Grandmasters up in the NA scene. And yeah, he'll be he's streaming also over on I believe it is twitch.tv/Mubi. So I'm not really sure. I don't know if I've missed a name or something like that, but not really sure if this is anyone of major note, but is up in the Grandmasters level there. So it should be a pretty interesting game. His opponent up in the top right-hand side as our red Protoss player, playing for EG and doing a pretty decent job at that, but also one of the wonderful casters that I love to watch sometimes. It is EGiNcontroL. And, well, we're on Daybreak, of course, a very big map, a nice little macro map as well. You can get your expansion pretty damn easy, you can defend it at the front. Of course, we do tend to see, like a lot of Protoss players, I've seen, I don't know if it's particularly the map itself or if it's just the way things are, but this particular map does tend to pick up oracles from quite a lot from the Protoss players. Sometimes you'll see them throw down the odd Stargate just down at the bottom right-hand, bottom, or sort of center side there, and then of course you can come through the back of the mineral line and really get some damage done just coming through the back. You may be able to pick off some of those SCVs. Of course, from Terran players, they like to get a quick reactor going down on the barracks so you can get quite a few Marines out. You also see a factory follow-up, also a pretty standard sort of thing to see, getting a couple of Widow Mines out to help out with that early defense. So this is just sort of the general state of this particular matchup. However, of course, the standard sort of, well, you know, Wings of Liberty standard sort of one gate expand, and then of course the one racks expand from the Terran is something that you still do see quite a lot. I think that with one racks expand, you do need to be very, very good with your scouting, and you need to be aware of, you know, how much gas has come in from your Protoss opponent. So these are important things to do when you are scouting out, and of course we'll see how iLoveMKP is going to go about that. It looks like he is going to go for that one racks expand. Already got one of those Marines now popping out. A second is on the way. So of course it looks like he is going to go into a macro style for the moment in control. Still on the one gas himself, so maybe the same sort of thing from him too. So while we're just waiting for the game to kick up a bit, of course, I hope you guys have been tuning into some of these games that I've been throwing up from time to time. There's been some really good ones there that have been going up, particularly from, of course, from some of the EG guys and some of the Root players as well. And of course, we did see some from Liquid Red. So hope everyone's been checking those out, and of course, you can come say hi to me on Twitter. That's DuckvilleLol. And you can see me streaming from time to time. I am doing a bit of live streaming this coming week of some tournaments, some live casting and these sorts of things. So I hope you can all tune in. It's a whole bunch of fun. And, well, we'll see what happens here in this game. As we saw, iLoveMKP did scout out that his opponent doesn't actually have that second gas there, so it obviously would have been that expansion. We did, of course, see that going down, so, you know, I don't need to explain that to you guys, but iLoveMKP, he's now aware that his opponent is also going for just a very general sort of, you know, a much more macro-orientated play. For our Terran players, we can see now picking up the double gas back at home. So it looks like he is also going to go for just a very standard sort of bio play. We're not going to see a crazy mech come out of him or anything like that. There have been a few different styles that people have been attempting mech in TVP. Of course, as many people will know, I like to mech in all matchups, and you know it is a little bit difficult in TVP still. But Widow Mines have made it a little bit interesting. And speaking of which, of course, you know, we do sometimes see the Widow Mines or Hellbats brought out in the TVP matchup alongside the bio. You can use those very powerful units. Of course, the Widow Mines really great for dealing with clusters of you know, zealots, and of course taking down singular stalkers and things like that, and doing quite a lot of damage. But you can also see Hellbats doing the same sort of thing, adding in a little bit of tankiness to your bio army, and then also disposing of zealots very, very quickly. So looks like both these players now just about to get their tech rolling. We've got EGiNcontroL with with his robo facility here. Of course, he's going to get started probably with an observer or two to make sure he can keep an eye on what's going on across the map. Of course, he has been doing that already, controlling the Zelnaga watchtower to the right-hand side and throwing down a proxy pylon here. The probe is also keeping an eye on the third base, and he's just doing a very standard sort of job. He's just playing things very, very slowly for the moment, just making sure that he's got all the bases covered, you know, metaphorically speaking, and making sure that he's getting all prepared for this mid-game. So we do see that EGiNcontroL is going to throw down a couple more gateways. We may see him add in a little bit more tech as well, as those the third and the fourth gas is now on the way for him as well. So I would expect him to probably throw down a Robo Bay very quickly so that he can get started on some Colossus. We do have that first observer now coming out as well, and well, just as we said, things being pretty passive for the time being. For iLoveMKP, he's got his stim on the way, of course. His starport is on the way along with the factory with that reactor, so he is going to go for what looks to be that 11-minute push. It's sort of a move out at around about 10 minutes with some Marines, some Marauders, and these kinds of things. They'll have stim, they'll have combat shields on the way, as we can see here. There will also be, of course, the +1 weapons, which is just researching right now. So this sort of times out to hit at around about 11 minutes. Of course, what you want to try and do is catch a Protoss opponent before they can get a Colossus or something like that out. But normally, with very standard sort of play, as we can see here from EGiNcontroL, Robo Bay on the way, which means that we will probably see him go for a Colossus as quickly as he can to make sure that he has some defenses up against that early buy push. So things are, yeah, just staying pretty standard for the moment. We've got a lot of Marines out. It looks as if he is actually, well, okay, I was a bit surprised there. We do, so there's sort of variations of this. Different people like to do different versions of this early 3 racks push, where some people will have 2 reactors, some will have just the 2 tech labs and get more Marauders out. But as we can see here from MKP, he does have the 2, he has the 2 tech labs, but he's actually just using that to make sure that he has his combat shields alongside the stim. And now we can see with +1 weapons on the way, the 2 first medevacs are now coming through as well. EGiNcontroL does have pretty good vision on the map, as we mentioned. Did see those forces approaching his base, and now we can see, looks like the push is going to go in. Of course, looks like we'll have a little bit of a stop on the production of the SCVs and sorry, of the probes for the moment, while EGiNcontroL prepares for this attack. The 2 medevacs loading up, looking to try and get a drop inside the main base, but EGiNcontroL has now thrown down the planetary nexus cannon of doom thing, and that is going to keep iLoveMKP back for the moment, just wanting to make sure he can, you know, he doesn't charge into a very deadly force, but it is actually going to come towards him. Force field's thrown down, a nice little catch on some of these Marines at the top of the ramp. Some units approaching it from the side. A Marauder, for some reason, just caught out there, but EGiNcontroL will be safe for the moment with that first Colossus out. A couple of good force fields, and of course the Zealots that are there as well. So as we, you know, we can see this is a very standard way to sort of see this particular matchup go. The Protoss player looking to get his tech up for the mid-game, and obviously looking towards that late game with the Twilight Council on the way. +1 armor and weapons just coming through now as well, so that's really going to help out. But will it be enough to help him with this secondary attack? It looks like iLoveMKP again caught out by some really decent force fields. The Colossus going to town on those bio units on the ground, and it looks as if, well, things will probably just go a little bit passive for the moment here. But EGiNcontroL actually gets an SCV kill there with one of the probes just poking away at an SCV, eventually killing it. And iLoveMKP constantly trying to look for this window into the main base here, trying to find a way through, but of course EGiNcontroL very well prepared. He's got a couple of stalkers just sitting off to the side here. They don't have blinks, so they can't necessarily catch a drop out by blinking underneath it and sniping down some of the medevacs or anything like that. But what he can do is just keep it from dropping in. Of course, as we can see here, with a full loadout on almost 4 of those medevacs here, iLoveMKP is really looking to try and get inside that main base, but he is constantly being pushed back by the defenses of EGiNcontroL. So as we can see, he's going to throw down. He's got the extra cannons up at the back here. We can see there is just we've got that one just down the back, another one just in the side here as well. And with these 6 stalkers just patrolling around the sides, he should be fine to deflect any of those drops that try and come through. So iLoveMKP forced to back off for the moment, just heads back home, has his 3rd command center on the way, and is going to get more racks up and running. We've also got the armory, a second eBay about to get started here too. So he is going to go for a little bit more tech with the +1 on the armor now finishing up as well. So he is going to add a little bit more to his tech repertoire there, just making sure that he is keeping up with his opponent here. Of course, we can see that EGiNcontroL now up to about halfway on both his level 2 weapons and armor for all those ground forces. So his tech is still looking pretty good. Looks like we just had a straight switch into the Templar tech as well, of course, with Storm now just on the way, almost finished up. We're going to see the addition of some more of those Templar now, so EGiNcontroL is going to look towards just heading straight over to the Storm tech, which is, of course, a very deadly thing to try and deal with. If you're a Terran player that gets your Marines caught out or something like that in a couple of storms and you don't have an umbrella, then things can turn very, very ugly very quickly here. So we'll see what EGiNcontroL is going to do. It looks as if some Vikings now trying to find a snipe spot on that Colossus. Of course, I do like the fact that iLoveMKP is only stuck with a few of those, but the big issue here is now that he has found just a completely undefended natural base here. The Nexus gets the cannon operating on it, but it is just a little bit too slow. The Colossus goes down to those first few Vikings, and now iLoveMKP has just said, you know what, you're not going to defend anything, I'm just going to jump straight into the main base. The Nexus goes down. Looks like we will have a load up of the units as best as he can. Has to leave some of them behind because there aren't enough medevacs for that, but iLoveMKP getting a huge amount of damage off, taking out the main Nexus, the natural Nexus. Of course, the third is still building, and while EGiNcontroL is not, he didn't exactly lose too much of his actual income in terms of his probes or anything like that, but look at the income tab right now, nothing coming in because there is nowhere to drop it off. So this is looking a little bit hairy right now for EGiNcontroL. Back at home for MKP, he is boosting up that command center count, getting a couple more at the third base. The refinery's going down there as well, but what he really needs to make sure he's focused on is defending this push from EGiNcontroL. While there isn't exactly a huge amount of power, if some of these storms get off and get into a really good position here, we can see that we may see the Terran forces just fall apart, but he needs to be very careful, needs to control this ramp, needs to make sure that his opponent cannot push too high up, and EGiNcontroL comes in for a storm. Does he get it off? Ooh, looks like some of the Templar actually picked off. There were 5 Templar here, but they got mowed down by some of the Marauders and the Marines that stemmed up. A storm gets a little bit whiffed. They're not exactly hitting a huge amount, but did take out a couple of those units, and now the Zealots just tanking their way to the front. iLoveMKP trying to split everything up as best as he can, doing a pretty decent job here, and with the bunker able to help out with some of those forces, giving them a little bit more longevity, and the medevacs now coming along. I think that our Terran player will be quite fine here, but there is a little bit more damage being done at the third base. EGiNcontroL with that proxy pylon was able to bring in quite a few more Zealots. Now keep in mind, these guys have got +202 on their weapons, so while they're not exactly going to be supported by too much, they can certainly do a decent amount of damage if they're allowed to get in, and with charge they're allowed to just jump right into the fight. And iLoveMKP is going to lose a few more of his bio forces here, but it looks like EGiNcontroL will be forced to back off for the moment. So Terran player doing a pretty decent job, a little bit of micro there to keep some of those units alive, but it looks like he is going to hold up for the moment here. With the third base now getting re-established, some Zealots will come about to try and hack that apart again, but I don't think that iLoveMKP is exactly going to lose the fight right here. Back at home for EGiNcontroL, finally has his natural Nexus. The third is, of course, up and running quite nicely, but, well, there is the main Nexus now finally going down here. He's been very focused on trying to get some of these counter-attacks going to try and cripple his opponent's economy, and unfortunately that has left him a little bit low in the bank, as we can see here, with basically no income for about a minute or two there. EGiNcontroL was having quite a lot of trouble making sure that he had the resources to continue the attack. So I do think it was a good idea to try and push in and try and see what damage he can get done. It's just unfortunate that some of those storms didn't really you know, come into too much effect there, but it looks like we'll have a couple more storms across to the side. A couple of ghosts now coming in, throw down a few EMPs. One EMP catches out a couple of the Templar there and does a nice job, but EGiNcontroL with the Archon now added in is doing quite a lot of damage. But iLoveMKP now with 2-2 on his upgrades should be able to force all of this back. I don't think he'll lose too much more at the third base, and yeah, as we can see, EGiNcontroL is just forced to back off for the moment while everything gets re-established. As we can see, the economy going to come back into shape now, up to around about 1,400 minerals coming in off these 3 bases. Got a decent amount of gas as well, but we'll have to see, is he going to be able to bring in some more upgrades? How many Templars is he going to be able to field here? It looks like we'll have a couple more But, you know, the interesting question is, will he have enough to compete with the Terran economy, which is pumping out 6 Marines at a time, Ghosts, Marauders, and, of course, we'll probably see his 3-3 on the weapons now coming along very, very soon, too. So, scan goes down from iLoveMKP. It looks like he's trying to see what EGiNcontroL is up to. A small, I want to call that a small force of Protoss units, but it is still something that can be a little bit deadly here. Moving through, going to try and take out some of those bunkers that are in the way, but it looks like the Terran forces at the back are getting into position here with a couple of EMPs. These Templar would be completely useless, but actually gets the storms off in time. There is still another storm. He doesn't get it down, and EGiNcontroL with his units forced to the back. For some reason, they got a little bit stuck at the back here, and that put him in a very awkward position because he sort of maneuvered his forces to the back here, and then they were sort of stuck on these resources and things, trying to move around to try and get out and do some more damage to the bio forces of iLoveMKP, but didn't really have the room to do so. So EGiNcontroL is just going to try and stabilize again, but there is a big problem now roaming its way across the map for him. We've got a couple of Ghosts, we've got some Marauders, and a whole bunch of Marines that are now pushing across with a few Medevacs as well, and I think that this may be the end of EGiNcontroL right here. We've got a couple of Templar throwing down some feedbacks there, nicely done, and he does escape with the majority of these Templar and the units there, and with a little bit of vision, he can see that iLoveMKP is about to move into the third base, but I think this could be the end of EGiNcontroL here, with the third Nexus about to go down. Yeah, he totally agrees, and that's the GG out. There is just too much damage able to come out of these forces here, and with no more power units, apart from one Archon, there are no storms available on these Templar. That was pretty much it for our Red Protoss playout from EG. Hope you all enjoyed that game. It was a lot of fun to cast, and I'll catch you all next time. Well, we're not actually going to have a similar sort of build. We got different styles coming out of both of them here. Zerg Buddy picking up a pool pretty quickly along with an extractor as well. So he is going to have very, very quick Zergling speed here. We'll keep an eye on whether he takes some of these